For the past few weeks, it's been reported by the world media that a war may break out between Russia and Ukraine. Russia has mobilized more than 126,000 soldiers to Ukraine border along with troops, tanks, missiles, fighter planes and warship. These are not a cross-border tensions between two countries. There is a literal threat that Russia may invade Ukraine, meaning that it will be establish its control over Ukraine. Ukraine may cease to exist. The USA and other countries of the European Union have warned Russia that if it chooses to do so, strict actions will be taken against Russia. And countries like China have shown support to Russia on this issue. Where India most allies partner with Russia, USA and European Union are very difficult to choose one side. But in the UNSC Council vote neutral and said legitimate security interests of all the countries. All major countries have become aligned on one side or the other in this war. This is the largest military build-up in Europe since World War II. It's also being said that if it does happen, if Russia declares war here, it's increased the chances of the World War III breaking out. To understand this issue better, we need to go into Russia and Ukraine history, obviously 1991, the year when the USSR or Soviet Union broke up into 15 countries, the biggest of which was Russia, and Ukraine was also part of the USSR. It got independent after 1991. But 1921, Lenin's Red Army had invaded Ukraine. After these communist Russian revolutions, the USSR was established in 1922, the union of 15 different Soviet Socialist Republic countries. One of the countries was the Ukraine, Soviet Social Republic. What was the Ukraine before this? Ukraine was the independent country, but had gotten its independence more than 3 years ago in 1918. Independence from the Russian Empire, and as you know, the Russian Empire was overthrown in 1917 by the Russian revolutionaries. So basically Ukraine was a part of the Russian Empire, then it got independence. Then the people that overthrew the Russian Empire went ahead and invaded Ukraine again. Some point of time when Russia and Ukraine was a part of the same empire, and some instance when Ukraine was a part of the Lithuanian or Polish Empire. It is interesting to know what happened after 1991. When the Soviet Union broke apart, some Ukrainians breathed as a sign of a relief. Their country finally earned its independence from the Soviet Union and they looked towards the European Union. In trading to join them, they wanted to become an independent Europe like others. But on the other hand, there were people that harbored a lot of sympathy for the Russians. Considering themselves to be Russians, they believe that Russians and Ukrainians are ethnically similar. Both are classified as Slavic. Their religions are similar. They are majority in Christians. For these people, the event of 1991 was like a partitions. It is a tragedy for them. And the second category people was Mr. Vladimir Putin. Mr. Putin said that the collapse of Soviet Union was a major humanitarian tragedy in which more than 25 million Russians were suddenly cut from the Russia and had disappeared into the various independent countries. President Putin claims that Ukraine and Ukrainians are the indispensable part of the Russian history and culture. So basically Putin considers Ukraine to be a part of Russia. But what about the people of Ukraine? The people living in eastern Ukraine are the area that lies beside the Russia's border. The people are mostly pro-Russia there. But if we talk about the overall country, the majority of people are favored to joining the European Union. In the favor of counting as an independent country, if I talk about some data, according to the survey from the April 2017, 53% Ukrainians were the favor of joining the European Union. According to the same survey, 46% Ukrainian favored to join NATO and 27% Ukrainians were against to joining the NATO, and the other did not have any strong opinion. 1st May 2004 was a historical day for European Union. It was a day when 10 new countries joined the European Union: Cyprus, Czech Republic, Estonia, Hungary, Latvia, Lithuania, Malta, Poland, Slovakia and Slovenia. It was special because 8 out of 10 countries are former communist countries. Either they used to be a part of Soviet Union or they under its influence. 3 countries are called Baltic countries: Estonia, Latvia and Lithuania. On the map you can see that the 3 countries are share border with Russia, and these countries are part of the European Union, also part of NATO. NATO is a military alliance between USA and European Union, stands for North Atlantic Treaty Organizations. NATO Article Rule 5, it means that if a war breaks out against any NATO countries or any NATO countries is attacked, the rest of all NATO countries would come to protect it with their militaries. The other military alliances on the eastern side called Warsaw Pact. After Soviet Union collapse, Warsaw Pact was disbanded, but NATO's existence continues even today. On the map, you can see the NATO countries. The European Union countries are blocked Russia on one side. On the other side, Japan is also major NATO partner. US have a military base in Japan. In fact, Japan is a part of the G7 countries and Quad group as well. Russia has a long border with Finland as well. Although Finland isn't an active member of NATO, but it has been a contributor to NATO-led operations. And on this map, you can look at Ukraine. Ukraine share a long border with Russia. If Ukraine become a part of NATO too, then Russia will obviously be pressured because it's surrounded by the all side. In 1997, a NATO-Ukraine Commission was set up so that Ukraine and NATO could partner with one another. After 10 years later, in 2008, NATO summit was underway and Ukraine stated that it wanted to become a part of NATO, and European Union agreed to make Ukraine a part of them. In 2017, the Ukrainian parliament even adopted the legislations which stated that given NATO membership is a major objective for Ukraine for the foreign and security policy of Ukraine. On 16 December 2021, there was a meeting between the President of Ukraine and the Chief of NATO in Brussels. There, the Ukraine reiterates its commitment to eventually join NATO. Russia strongly objects to it. President Mr. Putin had a video meeting with the US President Mr. Biden on 13 December, talked to British PM Mr. Boris Johnson on 14 December, had a phone call with the French President Mr. Macron, and the President of the Finland has put forward a demand to all of them to guarantee them that Ukraine would not be a part of NATO. As a response of NATO said, Ukraine is an independent country. Ukraine is free to make its decisions, whether it wants to become a part of NATO or not. As I told you earlier, the part of eastern Ukraine is inhabited by mostly pro-Russian people, and that other part often wants to separate from the Ukraine to become a part of Russia. So Russia started supporting these separatists in this area. In this province here, Luhansk and Donetsk, Russia is enabling a proxy war here. Maximum 15,000 people have been killed in this proxy war. On the top of it, Russia accused Ukraine for genocide to eastern Ukraine. Even after supporting this separatist group, Russia saw that Ukraine and NATO are continuing their geopolitical relationship. So Russia has started building up a military now. More than 1 lakh troops have been stationed at the border. The tanks and missiles are ready to each and every border with Ukraine. Russia is shown itself the ready to go to war. Is Russia merely threatening to start a war, or does Russia have an ability to invade other country? Yes, it's possible. Even not only is this possible, Russia has already done it in 2014 by invading Crimea. Under the revolutions of dignity, the Ukraine government was overthrown. The elections was held again, and the new president of the Ukraine was Petro Poroshenko. And on the 27th June 2014, he signed the associated agreement with the European Union. President Putin could see that he was losing his influence over Ukraine. That's why some weeks ago, in March 2014, Russia had sent its army to Crimea to invade. You can see the map of the Crimea was actually an autonomous region of Ukraine. Ukraine responded by saying that it is a violation of international law. Ukrainian president said that Crimea is a Ukraine's territory and it will also be Ukraine's goal to liberate it. Stefan Kubev, Ukraine energy minister, said that Ukraine has lost 80% of oil and gas deposit in the Black Sea and the significant part of the port infrastructure due to the annexations of Crimea. The other side, President Putin believes that it is the Russia's territory. After the invasions, Russia has put up a high security fence between the border of Crimea and Ukraine and has started building up a lot of infrastructure, and presently the whole Crimean region is under Russian control. Russia justifies all of it by saying that they are doing it because of NATO is trying to surround it from the all sides.